Welcome to the Strategy Sherpa Show, a series of organic discussions between hosts David Chavez and a variety of notable business leaders centered around their most significant failures and how they handled those challenges, so listeners can learn from their most teachable moments and apply the lessons to their organizations. Now, here's your host, David Chavez.
Hey everybody, this is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and we got a great show for you today. And I'm really excited because we have Chris Jennings here, and we're going to talk to him in just a moment. I just wanted to remind everybody of some of the webinars we have coming up. October and November is cash the next 6 weeks. We're doing a lot of cash stuff going on 24th from 1 to 2 Central Time. We have efficient operations for cash conservation, and Warren Sager's going to be doing that. And then we're going to be from cash strapped to cash rich, and that's Preston Law is going to be doing that one. That's November the 14th and 1 to 2 Central Time. And then the 26th, Lisa Jane Vargas and myself are going to be doing cash management mastery, tools and techniques for financial literacy, really. So trying to improve that financial performance. So a lot of cash stuff to really help you. And then in December, we are going to be doing a scaling up workshop in San Antonio, and we have quite a few registrations already. I think we only have about 8 seats left there, because I think we already have 12 or 13, and we only go to 20. I think I shared that with everyone because we try to keep these small and intimate. But anyway, let's get on to the show, and let's welcome Chris Jennings. So Chris, welcome to our show.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah. It's great to have you here. And how I met you, just to share it with the audience, was you were a speaker at a group I belong to, a Vistage group I belong to. And if anybody wants to know about Vistage, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to share it with you. But I'm in a Vistage group, and Chris came and spoke to us.
Yeah, it's a regular stop of mine around the country, checking in on various business leader organization groups and talking about sales and client retention and how to lead with confidence in either scenario. So yeah, it was a good discussion that day.
Yeah, no, I picked up some great insights from you, and that's why I wanted you to come on the show, because I think it's great what you're doing. But more importantly, because I think that at one time or another, all of us struggle a little bit with sales, or are getting them honed in exactly the way we want them to be, right? And so, and you gave us a lot of really great insights. Matter of fact, I think I went out of your thing and sold about quite a bit of work. I think it was 3 deals almost within the next week afterwards. So fantastic. I really enjoyed it a lot. So very effective, very effective.
Yeah, anything you can do to build your confidence, and be more comfortable in your own skin as you're talking to customers is only going to help. So that's part of why we're here and part of what we try to do for others.
Yeah. But why don't you share with everyone what you exactly do?
Sure. Yeah. So I own a sales consulting, training, and coaching organization. There's about 10 of us in the organization. We spend time with a variety of companies, let's say 5 million to couple 100 million roughly, and help them look at how they go about sales. How do they interact with their customers? What sort of client conversations are they having? Are they disciplined? And in my first book that I wrote, Conversations Made Easy, we talked about how to build a sales playbook, right? Which was the framework of the conversation that I had with your Vistage group going back a few weeks. And then the second book is around client retention and expansion. And because getting a client is one thing, keeping a client is another, which is, I think I'll dive into that today as we kind of get into the interview. So
what I loved. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, yeah, you're fine. I was going to add to that was, like you said, I think you said it well, is most people struggle with this. They struggle with their confidence in situations, especially when they're talking to a customer or prospective customer. They put them on a pedestal. They're more careful with their words, and they're less of themselves, and they have less of a fruitful conversation, and their results go down. So
yeah, I know you said that in the meeting when I was there, and I was just sitting there putting my hand in my putting my head in my hand and sitting there just going, I think I'm doing that right now. And just what you just said, and it was just funny because I walked out of there and authenticity, just be yourself. And I love your books because you wrote a book about how to sell with the conversations made easy, but then you wrote a book how to keep the clients too, because
Yeah.
I think that that's often something missed in the selling process, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's two sides of that coin. Two sides of your revenue coin are, acquiring the right kinds of clients and then keeping and growing and expanding them and really making the most of the relationship. And most companies really miss out on that. Most companies are getting a fraction. I always say most companies could double in size and never get a new client if they just got every client they work with to purchase and use all of the offerings that they already offer to their existing clients. And so, we've learned over time that you need a formula to follow. Otherwise, life takes over. We get too busy, we get distracted, and we're off on tangents, and we're not as productive or successful as we could be.
Yeah, and that's why here at Assured Strategy we follow the scaling up model that was written by Vern Harnish, and I've been doing it. I was coach number like 35 out of probably 1,000 that have went through now, and I've been doing it a long time. But a lot of our team has quite a bit of experience with scaling up too, and then when I saw your methodology and your approach, it reminded me of scaling up, simple but not too simple.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because if you overcomplicate it, it becomes more difficult to follow, more difficult to execute. Just having and so much of life is basic principles and sticking to the basics. But in a world where we are inundated with information, we are inundated with ideas, I think the mind loses focus and the inability, and it loses its ability to zero in on what's truly most important, which, I usually break down, and there's these 5 most important things you could do for your business. These are 5 most important things you could do in your personal life. And if you stuck to those top 5 activities on both sides of that coin, you'd probably have a great life.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Hey, tell us a little bit about your team and
Yeah.
and yourself. I mean, tell us a little bit about your background, then a little bit about your team and their experience.
Yeah, so I'm a sort of a serial entrepreneur, if you will,
Yes.
knocking on doors since the time I was 12, hustling for jobs, shoveling driveways in the winter or, cutting lawns in the summer, passing out flyers, and took that entrepreneurial spirit. Actually, I crushed it and after college, I went to work for a giant corporation out of school. And I figured for me, it was my MBA, was put me in a big business environment, coach me
Nice.
up, teach me some stuff that I need to learn. And then I bought a business that I built up and sold over a few years. And really, the last 30 years, I've been coaching organizations, speaking at conferences, working with teams to help them be more focused, more successful, more personally rewarded out of this thing that we call work. Which, I feel like you should get a lot of personal satisfaction out of your work. If you don't, you're probably in the wrong role. We need to figure something out. And there's a way to make money in any industry. I don't care what you're doing. There's good money in any industry if you're doing it right. And so, like I said, that's about a 30-year journey. And over the years, I've usually maintained a team of around a half dozen of us that are client facing that go out on assignments with clients
Mhm.
and help them execute. And we usually hang around, 6 months, 6 years, somewhere in that range till the client is sufficiently grasp the concept, internalize the concept, and this is just what they do. They don't know any other way than to do it that way. And that takes some repetition. And along the way, I get to speak at conferences, like Visage and other groups. And I've always enjoyed, bringing this message. And really, that's the reason I titled my first book "Conversations Made Easy." Is I just feel like most people struggle at this point to talk to anybody. And I've said, uh, and I believe this now, unfortunately, that I would suggest that the entire human race is doing everything in its power to never have a conversation with another human being again.
That's so funny.
So at some level, you got to be able to talk to your customers or certain people. So I just created a formula for how do you talk to people.
Yeah,
And
no,
it can be
it's great.
applied to sales, and frankly, it can be applied to anything. And my third and last book will be out sometime next year, talking about it in a more personal setting. So I'll let you know when that shows up. But and then we have some admin team behind us. It's cutting videos. We do a lot of video content for clients. Is helping make sure that I show up at the right speaking event at the right time, and really, keeping us on point when we show up to work with a client, that we got the materials and things that we need, which is execution. It's all about execution. Every team draws up a great game plan, and then you either execute it or you didn't. So
Yeah. Well, I got a couple questions for you. So when you were shoveling snow and mowing lawns, where did you do that at?
oh, that was mostly in Westport, Connecticut, which is where I
Oh,
grew up, which was a
shoot.
sleep
Oh,
sleepy suburb at the time. And, then it got a little more, Tony or whatever over the years. I think Martha Stewart moved to town, and, people went nuts because Martha Stewart was broadcasting out of her house there. And, it was just, it was a regular New York suburb where my dad and probably the majority of people who worked there commuted into New York. And my dad was an ad exec in Manhattan, and yeah, that was my upbringing.
oh, very cool. I just want to know, like, you went from shoveling snow in the wintertime to mowing lawns. So I figured it was probably somewhere in the East Coast there. And
Yes.
Connecticut sounds like it's reasonable. And so you grew up in a nice a little neighborhood, and you started doing that at 12.
Yeah, at 12 years old, I was printing up flyers and stuffing them in mailboxes and fielding phone calls and learning how to negotiate price, because my neighbor was the mayor of the town, and he negotiated the princely sum of $75 for me to retar his entire driveway. And then I had to renegotiate when I was about 2 days into the job. I'm like, I'm gonna lose on this one. I'm like, hey, if you want me to finish this, we got to talk more money. And I remember that was my first, renegotiation of our original contract.
Yeah.
And but
There was something else I wanted to talk about that you said too. You said that you go in clients for 6 months to 6 years, and I wanted to explain to everybody the 6 year part because a lot of times they go, "Oh, having a consultant or a coach in your business that long, that's ridiculous." No, you're probably helping them make a lot of money, and they
yeah,
wanted you to stay there and hold people accountable to the system, right?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
internal employees, you want them to do the best job that they can, but it's the nature of a company to have new initiatives where they lose focus.
Yep.
So, as an external advisor, right, we're always going to be focused on the prize. We're always going to be focused on growing your sales or keeping and expanding those client relationships. We're always going to bring you back to center, and we're going to make it yours over time. Like our main focus is to get that playbook built for an organization. So once it's in a written document, once we have video content on everything that supports it, that they have great examples internally, and everybody, this is just how they live. Okay, maybe we can take a break, but up until that point, there's a really good chance that if we don't stick around, that the work does not get cemented, and you're taking the cake out of the oven before it's really fully baked.
Yeah,
So
there's that time frame that after you get the playbook, they want you to help execute it because customers are always shifting,
yeah,
right? Their buying patterns are shifting, everything is shifting, and people who go in and don't think that their customer is doing something different over time and still stay with that same customer, they find that I'll always refer back to who moved my cheese. The cheese is
sure.
gone, but
Yeah.
they're looking in the same place.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Not to mention when I go into a company, the number of dormant clients that have spent money with these clients that we work with, but are no longer spending any money and that are just sitting there orphaned, and nobody's paying attention to them. So what happened to those people?
Yeah.
And how long do you wait before you reach out to a client that used to spend money with you that no longer does because you met somebody new that's now got your attention? And whose responsibility is that, and all of those issues that fall into that, under that umbrella.
I love it. I love it. So, hey, we are a live radio show. So we got a couple of breaks that we got to take as we're going through. And now is the time for one of those. Time goes by quick in the show. And so we're going to take a break. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We're here with Chris Jennings, and we'll be back after these messages. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Now, back to the show.
Hey everyone, this is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We're back here with Chris Jennings, and we are, the show is about business leaders like Chris, myself, and many others that have come on the show. We come on the show and talk about a mistake we made, and usually how we end up paying for those mistakes. I say that we get spankings for them. And the spanking isn't a physical swat on the rear end. It's cash flowing out of your rear end. And because you end up spending much more money than you wanted to on something that should have been a lot simpler than you made it. And it's not that we intentionally do these things. We just make mistakes. And that's part of growing. And that's what the whole show is really about, is identifying those mistakes. So Chris, with that understanding, let's share one of your doozies that you had there.
Yeah. And listen, if you're going to be in business over a period of time, you're going to make some mistakes. And I've also hung out in the Visage community, and I don't care how smart and on top of it and how profitable these companies are, everybody in that room is making mistakes every day. So the one that stood out as I was prepping for the show, I was like, I remember one. It stings a little bit to talk about it, but it was somebody had seen me speak. I think they were running a large pest control organization, and they really had some issues with sales. Two financial investors in the company. One worked in the business somewhat while they did other things, and the other guy was pure finance, and he was an attorney. And what happened was we knew we could help them with sales, but we were super busy. And I ended up turning over the project to a team member to run the whole project. And I ended up having to get out of it fairly quickly based on the timing of all of the things that we had going on. And this team member that I turned the project over to today is our most requested and most popular coach on our team. And,
that's awesome.
And he's done, had an amazing run with a lot of our clients. But this one in particular, what ended up happening was we never got buy-in from those two investor leaders along with the 4 day-to-day operational leaders for where we were going to go. So we got to their kickoff meeting. We usually do about a 30-day discovery, and then we do a kickoff meeting of a day or two. And then we're to give everybody kind of a flood of information. And then we're in a weekly or bi-weekly ongoing coaching, consulting, and training. And, shortly after the kickoff, we were already clearly misaligned. And that's when the complaints started coming in about, hey, we don't think that kickoff was as valuable as it could have been. Kind of like you and I were talking about at the break. Most everybody in the room loved my talk at your Visage meeting. There was one person who didn't. Well, it turned out the owner was the one person who didn't. And it was really because we lacked alignment.
Right.
And this is before I wrote my second book. And it actually was part of the inspiration. Like we developed a process internally that we were following. Okay. So when you get a new client, you have to onboard them successfully. If you don't onboard them successfully, you're in trouble. You need to go deep into the org chart. You have to have quarterly business reviews to make sure we're still in alignment. We got to have a project plan that they sign off on before we ever do a kickoff. And all of these lessons that we learned along the way, because we've been doing sales coaching for a long time and largely very effectively, but this one didn't go well. And as an attorney, he had no qualms about being argumentative, but it forced us to document our process, and our process ended up being the core material that's in the client retention matrix that we coach to today. And I open it and I said, in my opening statement of the book, I say, this book is born out of my own personal incompetence after, years of making somewhat similar mistakes. And I always say in life, you win the business or you win the lesson. and there
That's
is no
correct.
losing, right? You win the business or you win the lesson. And, you know, you got to stay teachable, you got to stay coachable. And I certainly learned a lot from that experience.
Yeah, that's right. Like I was saying, when the money's flowing out of your pocket, you can either lose that money or you can accept that money as a cost of learning something very valuable. And I
Mhm.
love how you just said that, and it became the basis of your book, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It was the basis of the book because we started working on it. You know, you take a couple of hits and you get a little stunned by it and it catches your attention and like you know, we're being woken up all the time and we take some knocks and those are like I believe, you know, firmly that those are designed, every one of those experiences is designed to teach us something. And I
yeah,
always try to encourage people to lean into that when things aren't going your way in life and problems are coming up. What is it supposed to teach you? And what it taught me, and you know, I'm fast paced and I like to move fast and get involved in lots of projects, but if I don't slow it down and do it right, so our ops team had to get it, you know, we had to coach our ops team about what's our onboarding process, have them help hold us accountable. So if any of me and the rest of the coaching team are moving too fast, we needed ops involved, heavily involved, to make sure that we weren't getting out of, you know, ahead of ourselves, which was, you know, probably happening more than once. Normally not with, you know, catastrophic consequences. Normally it was a cleanup, but you know, this was, I would call it somewhat catastrophic.
yeah. Well, I mean, probably a big client for you, a jeopardy of losing it just because you guys didn't keep yourself organized
Yeah,
and focused on the end prize, right?
yeah. Oh, for
But
sure.
but but these are great lessons in the end. Like you ended up getting a book out of it. So great. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, which that one in particular was fun to read, and you know, and we made that about the special teams players, and the special teams players are all the operational folks that actually talk to clients as well, the
Uh-huh.
project managers, the product managers, some people that would often be considered behind the scenes, not business developers. And I've found if you can get the operations team more involved in customer facing activities with thoughtful and directed conversations, it really does a lot to secure the confidence in the customer that they've made a good choice in hiring you, and they look forward now to what you're going to do in addition to whatever expertise, you know, the lead team brings to the table.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the thing what you did. So what you did is you got the client on board, you started having some meetings, you did your assessment in your period of 30 days, and then you got them on board, you started doing some work, and you found out you weren't aligned. How did you find out you weren't aligned?
That financial investor called me, and it called me and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about like the project at hand and what we're doing." And I didn't feel like that kickoff, the 2 day kickoff that we had, went the way that it could have gone.
Uh-huh.
Normally, and I will tell you too, since then, the response we get on the kickoffs, like the kickoffs are now blowing people away because we are better aligned going into the kickoff.
That's
The
correct.
only time our kickoff would ever not go well is if we weren't completely in alignment and they're not fully aware of what's going to get covered, which, you know, is something that's funny too, because I know this, like, don't surprise the customer with new things that they weren't expecting. I already know that, but sometimes as an expert outsider, you learn what the customer really needs and you try to give them what they need, but it's sometimes not what they want.
Right.
And now and if you have a good alignment conversation in advance of giving them what they really need, you're probably going to be fine. But if you're not on the same page, it's a disconnect.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah, and I love how you even talked about that in the speech about the wants and the needs. And you're trying to satisfy the needs, but sometimes the wants take over. And so you have, if you don't deal with the wants correctly, then it becomes a conversation like you ended up having. And
mhm,
to me, I think thank goodness that that happened to you, because like what it did is, like you said, it caused you to write a process, make things a
mhm.
little more streamlined. And I know, like with ourselves, we're constantly going through the contract. Are we delivering everything, right? And
Yeah,
making sure that we're delivering. And I think you probably built systems similar to that.
yeah, yeah. You have to have some internal checks and balances. and not take. And I would say, don't take anything for granted. Just because you know your internal systems doesn't mean your customer knows. And it's not uncommon that every customer has an idea of what they expect to get out of a service provider and any service, and it may be it's often something different that they need from what they expected, and it is our job to train them to become a great customer. And I talk about that a lot about, if you really work on training every new customer to become a great customer, to become the best customer you've ever had, think of what would happen to your revenue. If every new customer you brought in, or every time you got to retrain a customer when you started a new project with an existing customer and you cleaned up whatever wasn't ideal, and you're always working, having that ideal relationship and continuing to improve the quality and profitability of the relationship for both parties.
Yeah, no, I love how you just said that too. And so, how large of client was this at the time when it happened? Was it one of your largest ones, or?
No, we usually have a plenty of business going on. There's no shortage of companies out there that have upside in their sales, but I would say they were probably about 25 million in revenue with eyes on being 50 million.
Mhm.
And there's no question that we could have gotten them there. Excuse me, but it's just going to take it was going to take some more time,
Right.
right? And because we were misaligned, now we're behind, right? And now
Yes.
once you're behind, it's really like there are some comeback wins. We've certainly had those. But it's tough when you're snapping the ball from your own 1 yard line and you're already in your own end zone. It's difficult.
How did you handle it with a client when they came back and said that? How did you deal with that?
So we owned it. We just
Yes.
we owned it, and came back and said, I see where this went wrong, and I see clearly, and we own it. That's on us. Like, you've not been through this before. We've done it. We ate the fees on the session,
Great.
and gave them, and I think we got them on track enough and turned it back to them. It did leave a soured taste, if you will, but we did enough work. I don't really. Like, I'm always going to continue to do the right thing or whatever I think the right thing is. But we own the responsibility of that, and told them as much. So we ate the fees. We did some extra work to get them on track, and we turned it back over to their internal team, probably inside of that 6-month period. And so it's a short assignment for us.
Oh, that was great. That's great. I love how you recovered from that, and I think that giving the client that for free because of your mistake was awesome too. And I'm sure that happened a while ago because you seem pretty when you spoke to us. You seem pretty disciplined and pretty organized now. So I'm sure that was a valuable lesson at a younger
Yeah.
age.
Well, since I've been doing this for 30 years, like, and I really try to come from that lifelong learner perspective. Like,
Mhm.
I always want to be learning new languages all the time. I mean, I always want to learn. And we just get better and better and better, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like I said, every experience is designed to teach you something.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and I just got to be paying attention to what the lessons are. And in this case, we're able to like share the lessons more broadly through the book, and
Yeah.
through implementing that process now. In fact, I will tell you that process has become as valuable, if not more valuable, than all of our sales and sales leadership systems. So
Yeah.
it's been really well received.
That's great. That's great. Well, hey, it's time to take a break again. Time flies when it seems like you just started talking and it's over. So this is a Strategy Sherpa show. We'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Now, back to the show.
Hey everyone, this is David Chavez. I'm here with Chris Jennings with Chris Jennings Group, and he is talking about sales. So Chris, thank you for sharing some of your wisdom with you. It was really great listening to you. I was laughing a little bit while I was listening to you because I've made the very mistake you made before, where we go in there, we get started, we don't communicate effectively at first, the team, and the next thing you know, the client's calling you and you're like, what's going on? And then when you start looking at it, you're like, oh boy, we just really dropped the ball here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Life moves at a fast pace.
yeah, that's
And
right. That's
if you
right.
don't have a process to, keep you in line, or you just think you got it down and you no longer need the process. I repeat in both of my books, I repeat over and over again, like, fall in love with your process, right? Get really good at your process and your process will love you back. And
Yeah.
that's always my mantra.
Yeah, no, I think it's people and scaling up. We'll talk about people and process, trying to keep these two things in balance. You want to process the things that are repetitive and then make a process so talented people can be talented at what they
Mhm.
do, right?
Yeah.
I know when I started putting processes in the company I have now, I got a lot of pushback from some of the coaches that I was maybe stifling their creativity, and I said, okay, well, I don't, I could see where that could come from. But really, what I'm trying to do is give you the platform to have more creativity. After the process was in place a while, one of the guys who came and gave me a little bit of hard time, he goes, you know what? I am more creative now because I'm not dealing with all these little things that were
Mhm.
consuming my brain space before.
It's a
So,
really good point.
yep. Yep. So it's really good. But share a little bit of your wisdom with everyone about what they should do. Like I mean, when you talk to us, you gave us such great insights. Share a couple of those things with everyone.
Sure. Yeah. And I think there's two things that we've had as mainstays in both programs that we deliver around building your sales playbook and the client retention matrix. And the two common themes, number one is something we call go live, and that organizations need to have a measure of live dialogue that their people have with their customers and their prospective customers. And unfortunately, like I said earlier, the entire world is doing everything in its power to never have a conversation with another human being again. So what ends up happening is everybody's defaulted to email as a primary method of communication, and we're not talking to each other at the level we need to. And what ends up, even though you think you're documenting your what you're saying in an email, you're assuming that people are reading your emails, which they're probably not. And you got to have, what I always feel like, you got to have the live conversation. So if you have full-time salespeople, if you're a full-time business developer or you lead a team of full-time business developers, in my opinion, they should be having 4 hours a day of go live time on the phone or in front of or on a Zoom with prospects and customers in dialogue, talking to
Yeah.
them, identifying opportunities, talking about the project, getting back into alignment, and statistically the average is about 45 minutes to an hour.
Right.
And what ends up happening is people are losing control of the sales process. They're not influencing their customers at the way they need to. And unfortunately, they're not training the customers to become great customers. And a lot of people complain about their customers, right? They complain about their customers or the other team and they play the victim. And I would say you got to own the responsibility of training your customers to become great customers, because they don't know how to be great customers, and it's your job to teach them. So go live. If you can get your go live time, if you're full-time business development, that should be about 4 hours a day. If you're and I'm going to give you another concept, a special teams player, is probably an hour a day. And the special teams that we've coined and named it that, those are all of the smart, hardworking folks in your organization that are not labeled sales or business development, yet they have go live dialogue with your customers and your prospects,
Oh,
right?
I love it.
Yeah, your installers, your drivers, your project managers, your product specialists, your sales engineers. It's all the, what your customers are going to look at is, the guts and brains of your company, the heart and soul of your company at some level. It's the people that your customers want to talk to, right? Nobody gets excited to talk to a new salesperson, but everybody is all ears if you got an engineer or project manager coming over to tell you how to do something smart. And what we found is that there's normally not enough direction. So we coin it, we've coined the phrase special teams players. We try to help people brand it appropriate to their organization. I have one group that calls it the PXT team, which is like the project excellence team. So it's not really a sales initiative. It's a client excellence initiative.
Right.
And you could call it the the CXT team, a client excellence, team. And if you have the focus of that special teams group, and you help them identify not a lot of things, but 2 or 3 go-to strategies or conversations that you want to bring up, or questions that they ask. The payoff from empowering the special teams players to be proactive with your customers is off the charts. It's off the charts.
Yeah, you're talking about. I love how you're talking about this. When you started talking about it, my pest control service popped into my mind, and why that happened, because I moved about a year and a half ago. I had to get a new pest control person. The guy seemed really nice on the phone, great salesperson. He explained everything to me. The guy comes out to evaluate my house and pisses me off in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Right. And I just told him to leave. So all that great work was done. And now this guy just comes over because he's in a bad mood. He pisses me off.
Yeah. And that happens all the time. So, that's the handoff is not right. So he didn't communicate and I'll tell you, whatever you caught, that initial conversation you had, you probably prioritized what was important. Clearly that person who showed up at your house had no knowledge of that.
No clue.
Right? No clue what was important. If all he had done was looked at the notes and kept you focused on the things you already told them that were important, you would have had a great experience, and they'd still be a customer today and for many years later. So I would say, like, if you look at the potential of, especially if you have a recurring revenue example like that, like what's the lifetime value? And we have on our website or in the book in the client retention matrix, we have a calculator for the lifetime value of a client. And if you put in the lifetime value of a client, it's off the charts, but we don't put the time and energy into it, and maybe there's not a process.
Yeah, and they could find that on chrisjenningsgroup.com, right?
Yes.
That's the website, and you have that on there. And I love that you have that, like the client, how much their value is to you. And it's so interesting how you're saying it, because, then I called another company. They were very organized. They were a little bit more expensive, like quite a bit more expensive. I didn't even care.
Right.
I was like, I didn't care. They have been incredible. I have not seen a bug since I lived there unless they're dead, laying on the ground. So it's pretty amazing what this company does. But I went from this very frustrating situation to this very pleasant situation, and you're identifying exactly what they did, right?
Yeah.
They had very clear communication from the person I talked to on the phone to the people that were coming out to the house. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I get where companies struggle with this, and there's employment issues, but I was encourage business leaders to invest in their team, invest in their careers, invest in coaching them up to have better communication with their customers. And let's just assume that most frontline workers need some coaching to have a better conversation with their customers. Leaving it up to that person who showed up at your house clearly was a mistake by company A, and to company B paid off because they had a process, and I'm sure they've done some coaching about how do you show up at a customer site, right? And what do you talk about, what's important to them, right?
Yeah, you could tell this company was the training was at the forefront of their game. So you could tell that just the way that they're doing things. But so you have the calculator on your website, but it's also in which of the books is it in?
In the client retention matrix, right?
Okay, so that's the one after you do the sell.
Yeah. Yeah. I affectionately call it the orange book. The blue book is the conversations made easy and building your sales playbook. And the orange book is the client retention matrix and making the most out of every client relationship.
Yeah, that's great. Any other insights that we could take away from, like, when let's say that somebody is struggling with their sales and they think they got a hold of it, what would you say to them to help them understand that maybe they don't?
Yeah, I think I always come back to what are you doing each day, and so one of our founding principles is really about identifying what are the top 5 activities that are going to lead to your biggest best results. So if you can't clearly articulate to me or anybody else, what are the top 5 activities that you're engaged in day in, day out, week in, week out to grow your business, then that tells me that you're not spending your time as valuably as you could. You're not investing your time the right way. Time, in my opinion, is the third most precious commodity on the planet. I'm going to go with air, water, and then time. And so you have to know what are your top 5 activities if you're in a full-time sales role. And for the special teams players, I want you to identify your top 2 or 3 activities. You can't do everything, but tell me what your activities are. And if you as a leader don't know what those activities should be, then you're probably not getting your money's worth. You're probably not getting the effectiveness of the investment in your sales organization. And I know that before I've even looked at it. And
yeah, it's funny you're saying it. I'm feeling the pain as you're talking. So when I was in the Vistage group and you had asked us to do that, I got 4, and then I couldn't figure out the 5th one. And I couldn't believe I couldn't figure out the 5th one. I didn't have consciousness of it.
yeah,
I was doing it, but I didn't have consciousness of it. And you moved it up to my conscious mind, which has helped me a lot. And like I said, I went off and closed just from your little bit there, went off and closed 3 deals the next week. So it was like these little itty bitty things have a big impact on the bottom line.
Yeah. And in being able to come back to somebody that's going to remind us to do the smart things that maybe we already knew about. But having somebody in our life that constantly brings us back to focus, constantly gets us spending our time the right way is always going to have a payoff. So having a coach, having a mentor, being in a Vistage group, working with you and the Scale Up, working with us and Chris Jennings group, it's always going to have a nice payoff for you. I've surrounded myself with mentors my entire career.
Yeah. So I think it's great. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming and sharing the mistake you made. I mean, it's never fun sharing and reliving some of this stuff, but you and I both know that that's part of growing our business. And I think that that's what we're trying to communicate here on the Strategy Sherpa Show. And we sure do appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thanks for having me. It was a growth moment for me. Hopefully it's a good growth moment for all your listeners. And, we're here to help people grow ourselves, you, and anybody we can. So thank you, David.
Yep. ChrisJenningsGroup.com. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Now, back to the show.
Hey, everybody. This is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and we just finished up with Chris Jennings. What a great guy to come on and talk about this. And as a consultant, to admit that you made a mistake in one of your consulting projects is pretty bold. I love that he was willing to just talk about it. I know I've made that same mistake. I know some of the other coaches that work in our firm have made that same mistake. Our intentions are never to do anything like that. And we always want to make sure that we're handing off or we're getting the whole team involved in what the outcome the client is looking for. But sometimes we just make mistakes. And as he said, he made a mistake. But that caused him to actually create a process because he's going to keep on bringing on customers. And that's a repetitive task for him. And the way that he does it and the communication that he has, he can't process that. He has to process having the communication or making sure that we follow up to check to make sure we're delivering what we said we were going to deliver. Those are the things that need the process. The conversations don't need a process. And I really enjoyed how he said that we need to pick up the phone. I think a lot of times people send long emails that really are probably good conversations that need to happen over a phone. And I think he said it correctly. People don't always read those long emails. So a lot of times you'll end up with somebody who you think you've communicated effectively with, and they just don't even know it. But I got on Chris's website and I'm taking a look at it right now. And he has a tab called resources on there. And he has all kinds of really great stuff on here. The cost of sales worksheet is on there. I actually just downloaded it myself. I think it's he gave that to us when he spoke to us too, but I think it's just such a great tool to really look how much customers cost you and why you should be selling to the existing customers, even if you have a tangible product. What else could we be selling them that we offer, and how are we going about that? But I wanted to talk a little bit in this afternoon segment, or this ending segment, about complacency. When I'm talking and speaking to CEO groups, I'm talking to the group, and I'll talk about the valley of death. And we show a little thing that goes up, it plateaus, and then it comes back down, and then it goes up again. And down at the dip is the valley of death. And what is the valley of death? The valley of death is when the company runs out of money. And to back that up just a little bit, there's two things that start happening when companies really start growing, and they're growing fast. The processes start to erode. I call it process erosion, right? I have two people doing a process. The communication's really easy between these two people. They can change the process very simply. By the time you get to 5 people, you have 120 points of communication that could create problems for you. And then also, if 5 people are doing a process that was designed for 2, I guarantee you there's redundancies in those processes. And that's one of the things that one of our team members works on, Preston Law. He goes into companies and he looks at their processes, and he tries to figure out with them how to make them more efficient and how to make sure that we're not going over the top of each other. Because when we're coming up that slope, I have process erosion starts to happen. So that slows me down. And the other thing that's really interesting that I've found being in almost 300 clients so far, helping them scale, is another thing that happens is complacency. When complacency starts to settle into the company, it really becomes a challenge for them to get it out. If you think about it this way, have you ever asked somebody if how's their business is doing? They go, "Oh, we've been doing great." And then about 4 months later, you see them, and you may ask her, "Hey, how's your business doing again?" And she says, "Oh, my business is doing okay." What happened from great to okay? How did it go down when the economy seems to be going up? What happened? Well, I think that what happens in a lot of companies when they're doing really well is they start to accept good instead of great. And so if we go to Jim Collins's first sentence in the Good to Great book, the enemy of great is good, then we can start to understand. We start to take our foot off the gas. We start to not hold people accountable to the results we're expecting from them, because we don't want to, because accountability requires a little bit of confrontation, right? And confrontation doesn't always have to be negative. It could be a positive confrontation too, but it still requires some confrontation, holding people accountable. And what we do is we start to slip on that. When we're not doing well, we're holding people accountable. We're doing the things we're supposed to be doing. But as we start to do better and better, we start to get a little complacent. And that complacency, as well as that process erosion, starts us down a path to rebuilding the company, re-looking at the business model. And if I don't have the cash reserves to handle that dip, I may go out of business. So I want to be real careful with that and make sure that in those high growth times, hold on to cash, because you're going to need it. We all end up going down a little bit over time, and we're going to need that cash for that transformation that we're going to have to go through. So I just wanted to come back to that and talk a little bit about that because of Chris and what he was doing. But I wanted to talk a little bit about our workshop in San Antonio on December the 10th. This is a scaling up workshop. Right now, we're getting ready to start posting some scaling up workshops for next year. we're going to actually do advanced scaling up workshops too, where people come to one workshop and they learn the basics of scaling up, because that's generally what we do in the public workshops. We're going to do some more advanced ones too, taking people to the next level, like in strategy or execution, or just with cash too. And so take a look at our website, assuredstrategy.com, and you can just click on the events tab and we have everything right there. And then we also have a resource tab, just like Chris Jennings does. And on our tab, you can actually get a free valuation of your company. If you don't know what the value of your company is, how are you going to sell it someday? If your company is about you, how are you going to sell it someday? The company has to be a company based on the company and what it's doing, not on you. The valuation starts to give you a benchmark that you can measure it from and go up from there. There's some other things on there, but I think the valuation's probably the most valuable thing that you could take advantage of, and it's free. All you have to do is just put in a few bits of information and we'll give you a rule of thumb valuation. But if you want a more detailed one, you need to put in a little bit more financial information. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and we definitely appreciate Chris Jennings coming on and sharing some time with us today. Check out his website at chrisjenningsgroup.com and click on that resource page and maybe take a look at it. If you're stuck a little bit with yourselves, reach out to Chris and talk to him and see if he and his team can come and help you get back aligned. I know he has clients all over the country, just like we do, and I'm sure he would love to help you grow your company to the next level. This is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it. See you next week.